Hello, my fellow Alaskans. How are you all doing out there today on this beautiful, beautiful raining day? At least it's not snowing. We are here today with candidate Rachel Allen running for House District 28 in the MatSu Valley. And we are going to be doing some hard-hitting interviews today with her and asking questions that the mainstream media refuses to do. And that's what this is all about. Take a moment right now, like and share this video. That way more Alaskans, especially those that live in the MatSu Valley and in District 28, have the opportunity to hear from their candidate running for that seat in the House of Representatives down there in Juneau, to make sure that we elect people that are right for Alaskans, not right for the swamp. And I'd like to take a second here right now to go ahead and introduce Rachel Allen to all of you. This is to my right there. Rachel Allen, how are you doing out there today?
We're doing great, not drowning.
Good, good. Take a moment right now and tell us a little bit about yourself. We'd love to hear more about you, why you chose to start running, and take it right up front. Let people know how to get a hold of you. We'll do it again at the very end, but I want to make sure that people get an opportunity that they can reach out to you at any chance that they can to make that happen.
So you can get a hold of me at electrachelallen.com or on Facebook at Rachel Allen for State House. Those are the two ways. I just want to go over the new district because a lot of people that I talk to, they don't have any idea that we're actually in a new district. So our district starts over here, and this is just over off the Palmer-Wasilla, just past Trunk Road, where Napa is, that little neighborhood up there. It goes down Old Trunk.
Oh no, hold on just one second. For some reason, somehow, your camera has just completely shut down. So let's see what happened here. Yep, it completely disconnected. I don't know why it's done that. Give me just a second here. Let me see if I can get that back up and running. And there is no reason why it should not be connected at this point in time.
She has no internet either.
All right, I think I might have it fixed there. Let me see if I can get it to... No, it is still frozen there on the screen. This is, well, we'll fix this the easy and old-fashioned way. Until I can find out what's going on with that.
So I can look at you now?
You can. Sorry about those that are watching out there right now. I know you can't even see me at the moment, and that really does suck. So we will get this here going here just a second. Give me one more moment. I gotta adjust things now compared to the way it was. Wasn't set up to do a single camera view. Almost. Just one more second. I can't believe this. Technical malfunctions on the equipment. Ah, there we go. Okay. I'm set on my end, and we are showing on both screens now, so we're both in highlight. So let's go ahead and, sorry about that. Rachel, you were introducing yourself. You were letting us know where you're running in the MatSu Valley, what districts you're in, how to contact you, and why are you running?
So you can reach me at electrachelallen.com or on Facebook at Rachel Allen for State House. And then I brought a map of our new district here. It goes over here, 49th State Street, and just where Napa is on the Palmer-Wasilla, and that neighborhood back there. And then it goes down Old Trunk, Blue Lupine area. It contains the whole higher road. and then South Bogard, and then it comes back up Seward Meridian area in there, and then over to North Peck, and then also to Selden and Wasilla Fishhook, and then it comes way out Spruce, up Church Road, and then Schrock area. So it's a pretty big district. And I'm running in the new District 28. I've lived in Alaska for 26 years now. I've been married for nearly 23 years now. I have 5 children, and I went to school for dental hygiene in 2003, graduated in 2006, and then we moved back in 2008. And my husband and I did Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. We got out of debt completely. We made a lot of sacrifices so we could be debt-free. And I decided to run for office because I've been frustrated with politicians that I've voted for not doing the things that they say they're going to do, and then only half-heartedly doing some of the things that they say they're going to do. I see a progressive movement taking over our state, and that really concerns me for not only my children but Alaska's children. I want to have a nation for our kids and our grandchildren and their children to live and come back to. But the way it's going, it's interesting. You know, I know that we all sound pretty much the same because we're all Republicans running in this race. But my reason for getting into this was I've only seen a few in the political class doing what they tell us that they will do. I plan on doing exactly what I promise, and I'll fight for conservative values and follow through on my beliefs. That most and all decisions belong to the people. We need to return back to the Constitution and return back to by the people, for the people. I feel like the government should follow the Constitution and the agreements that they have made with the people, and I feel like that people aren't doing that. So that is why I'm running. I have 5 children, and we homeschool, and we live out here in the valley. We built our own house for it took us 3 years to build our house, and we lived in a little camper while we did it with 3 small children, working full time. So, and now it's done.
And you've been in Alaska for how long?
Almost 26 years total.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We moved to Michigan in 2002. I went to dental hygiene school there, and then we moved back in 2008.
So what inspired you to actually run and enter into the sausage making process of for Alaska Ledge as a representative?
So, well, like I said, I've been frustrated with the politicians that I voted for not doing things they promised or half-heartedly fighting against the progressive movement I see taking over our state. And I felt like I could either sit there and complain about it, or I could actually do something. So this is me doing something about it.
Nuts and bolts. We've got a lot of issues that are facing Alaska. Number one thing, I know you've been walking around talking to your constituents within your district, getting to know them, letting them get to know you. What's the main issues you hear coming from the people that you're talking to right now? Is it the PFD? Is it education? Is it healthcare? Or is it just trying to put food on the table and gas in their vehicle? What are you hearing from folks out there right now?
Actually, the biggest thing that I hear from people is the election integrity. We all know that the 2020 election was stolen, and we aren't having our voices heard. There was a movie out called The Selection Code, and a lot of people are feeling like they're not being heard, and that the candidates that are quote-unquote winning are being selected for them, and their voices aren't being heard. With that, they really, including myself, we want to clean up the voter rolls. We want to ban the machines. We want voter ID and paper ballots. We want to severely restrict the absentee voting, severely restrict the early voting as well, drastically reduce the precinct size, because then that would make the paper hand counting a lot easier. Ban ballot harvesting, and I don't know if you know that Alaska does have ballot harvesting, and they just tell you, well, we got to do it better than the progressives, the Democrats. And that was kind of a shocker. Also make Election Day a holiday, make it easier for people, because they're always whining, the other side's always whining about, oh, you're disenfranchising the voter and you're making it harder to vote. But if we had an election day, there's no excuse as a holiday. Also increase the transparency, also heavy prison sentences for fraud. And I think we're starting to see some of that going on. And then the other thing is repealing the ranked choice voting. People are so unhappy with that. And they all know that that didn't get in. That was fraudulent as well. And then you can watch Project Veritas. They put out 3 videos detailing that and Murkowski's campaign, and how that all, how she was instrumental in bringing that to Alaska. And, it shouldn't matter what your party affiliation is. We should all want voter integrity and knowing that our vote counts and that our elections are fair and secure. And I feel like, with this ranked choice voting, it's really opened people's eyes to the fraud, because I don't think a lot of people really realized what it was until they actually went out and voted, and not even knowing that there were new districts as well. So I've had several friends that went to different precincts and were told, no, you're not in the correct district, even though we went on the election website and their certified map, and showed exactly where they were. They got to the main election office and they were told, no, you're not in that district. And they got given a different ballot. So then they weren't able to research who they wanted to vote for. And then also other people, well, including myself. So I went to vote in the borough election, and the machine would not take my ballot. I had to put it through 4 different times, turn it upside down, around, backwards, and finally it took it. Same thing for my husband. And the lady at the Division of Elections office was like, oh, we've been having those problems all day long. And I just said, well, that's a good way to, or reason to get rid of the machines.
Did your polling place have felt pins too there, or?
So I went to the main Division of Elections. So my dad was like, well, where do I go? Where do I go? And it wasn't clear where to go for him to vote. So I was like, hey, Dad, the main office is open right now. Let's just go down there and let's just do it. So yes, they had felt tip pins at the main election office, the one off of Bogard.
So you made mention here just a second ago of the PFD, and it's been a political football since the last 7 years, since Walker vetoed the very first one. The very following year after that, we had the Alaska-alleged passed SB 26, and they used SB 26 as a way to what's the word that I'm looking for? Permanently take our permanent fund dividend and put it into their hands to dictate any fictitious amount they want to pull out of that magic hat that normally you'd see the rabbit. Instead, they pull out the number that they want to give us for a permanent fund dividend. Would you stand for repealing SB 26? I know that there's going to be several legislators that will be making it into Juneau that are going to be introducing that bill. Would you be a co-sponsor on it?
To repeal it, yes. Well, and then when I was looking, is that one part of the certificate of need as well? Because I looked up SB 26. Maybe you can clarify specifically what that.
SB 26 is the POMV draw that they created, and so basically it supersedes the statutory PFD, which that law should be the grandfathered one in. And then they used SB 26 to say that they're only allowed to take X amount out of the ERA. And because of the Supreme Court, they get to dictate how much of it they want to give us for our PFD, because they control the purse strings.
See, and I don't think that should be allowed. It should go back to the statutory amount. They need to take it out of the budget, because that's the problem, is that they're trying to use our funds, our money, for our mineral rights that was promised to us as funding big government. We need to take it out of the budget, and just like every household has to do, we have to live within our means. So I don't know necessarily what we can cut, except for maybe like funding for abortion. We could cut transgender surgeries out of the budget, some of those things that most people in this state don't want anyway. So I don't understand why our funds are being allowed to fund that. But yeah, as far as I say, the PFD, don't spend money you don't have, and quit taking the people's money, quit stealing our money.
So you brought up one there, and that seems to be of hot contention, especially out here in the MatSu Valley and the school board. They recently just voted to have bathrooms, and it's pending the final decision, but bathrooms aligning with your biological sex, overriding the 2015 statewide voting to allow you to use whatever bathroom you may feel you align with at any given moment to be able to go into. And then we've got the second one that they are currently working on, that one is that was already taken care of and has been approved, was students aligning with their biological sex playing in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to get to Juneau, is there anything that you would like to see happen when you're there and to become more in line with the MatSu Valley's way of doing things? Or are you going to sit back and let it just completely ignored as if it doesn't exist? I know the Democrat answer to that answer, and it's always, we're all about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And we must treat everybody as if they are the golden child, and that's the way it's going to be. Fairbanks just recently had in one of their high schools a debate held for the school board members that are running, and this is the one question that they were asked for diversion, inclusion, and equity. And 3 of the candidates gave the far left's answer to that. And then only one candidate says, I really don't see too much, he didn't agree with it, but he says the one thing that he really did take a problem with is that parents, it written into the language, parents, they don't have to tell the parents. If your child wants to identify as something else, they are told that they do not have to tell the parents that is what is happening. And he was the only one that brought that up as an issue there. So where do you stand?
So I have taken action. I have taken my kids out of school. I mean, we started in a private school, which was really good. It just got too expensive for us. But there was no way I was going to put my kids in public school. I work with kids. I work with adults. I see people from all walks of life in my profession as a dental hygienist. And I saw this coming a long time ago, before I even had kids in school, when they started making gay marriage legal and then started opening up bathrooms for the opposite gender to come in. And I just saw all sorts of things starting to happen with that, just coming along down the pipeline. I think I really like what they're doing in Kenai. The parents are taking the school back. They're applying for a charter school certificate, and that's going to be run by the parents. I think, what's going to have to happen is the parents start taking the education back from the hands of these indoctrinators. Not all, I wouldn't say all teachers are this way, but I feel like a lot of the teachers are stuck in the system and they just want to teach, but they're being forced to teach, or you lose your job. And even with this bathroom situation, if some of the schools don't follow that, then they're going to be taking funding away, and they're threatening taking funding away from kids' lunches. So they're threatening to make kids go hungry. because they don't want men in little girls' bathrooms. I mean, I've got a 7-year-old son, I've got a 10-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter, and my youngest is 1. My youngest daughter is 1. And I've got a 3-year-old son as well. Don't want to forget him. But but I mean, and conversely, I don't want women in the boys' bathroom. I mean, it's ridiculous what these people are doing. They're taking away the family, and they're trying to give our parental rights to these indoctrinators that are in the system and pushing parents out. And if they can do that, then we become nothing, and they can turn us into a socialist country, which is what they're wanting. So I do not want indoctrination for anybody's children. I want for our kids to know the Constitution, know the Bill of Rights, and be happy. I mean, a lot of these people that I watch that go out and ask about, oh, do you know what the 4th of July represents? They're like, we have no clue. They have no idea. And the one lady that I watch, she goes around and asks all the questions on the citizenship test. And they're easy questions, but most people don't have any clue. We should be teaching that sort of stuff. We need to get back to the basics and teach the kids reading, writing, arithmetic, and our Constitution. And we need to make people proud, kids proud to live in this country. I know I'm proud.
So this past year down in Juneau, when they passed the budget, they forward funded education a tune of $1.2 billion on top of their normal budgeting amount. A little over $3.6 billion was basically funneled over to the education of K through 12 and the universities combined. The judges have come back out and said that they can't forward fund, which we knew that was going to happen when it came to that. It was just a political ploy to make themselves look good for elections. But we have the worst education in the nation. Last January, when the Department of Education sat down in front of the committees and they were doing their budget spew in the month of January, the first month they're in session, they all get to hear all the different departments' budgets and what they've accomplished. He said we ranked the number 1 for being the worst in the nation. We were number 52 out of 52 in the United States. Puerto Rico and Guam beat us, and he had also said at that particular moment in time that many third world countries have a better education system than what we provide here in Alaska. We're triple the cost than anywhere else in the nation for the worst results. Have 54 districts that are within our school system right now that are in operation. Is any of the above that I just mentioned something that you think you could tackle when you're down in Juneau, or you have any plans to tackle? Maybe consolidating of the schools, putting something in there that says they're accountable for the scholastic output of our students' education so that they're ranking higher than what they are right now. You brought it up. Reading, writing, arithmetic, get back to the core basics instead of making sure their core pronouns are the most important thing. That was one of the questions that happened in Fairbanks, is they made it, part of that question was is should they have training to make sure that the teachers are correctly doing the pronouns for their students. It was one of the students' questions to the school board, and that fourth person out of the 4 that was in there, every time he had that stance, I don't understand why we're doing that, why are parents not being informed. When did proper grammar take a second seat to the English language that's already the most difficult in the world to learn?
Well, I don't, so you have a set number of hours each day for each kid in a classroom to learn, and the more things that you add, like this gender ideology, CRT, and whatever else they want to dream up, that starts to edge in, and then you've got to take something else out. So it seems as though what they're doing is they're taking out the reading, the writing, the arithmetic in favor for all of these things. School is for learning how to read, learning how to write, math, also learning how to love your country. It should not be for these other things. And I like President Trump's idea of abolishing the Department of Education. I think that that would be a good plan, because a lot of these teachers' unions are pushing for this stuff. And if you don't do it, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at anything. If you're not teaching the things that you need to teach that are required, kids aren't going to magically go out there and just learn it. I mean, unless you have a kid that's very motivated. I mean, one of my kids is extremely motivated to get out and learn things. She gets her work done. But most kids that I work with, you can tell they're just like, just go to school for, social hour and everything. And in fact, I met somebody the other day that their kid didn't do schoolwork except for like every 10 days. And then passed with a D, but kids are going to take the path of least resistance and do as little work as possible. And so then when you start putting these other things in there that aren't important, and then they're trying to undermine the parental authority, because you can even see it in the entertainment, some of these shows, these teenager shows where the teenagers are running the show and the parents are just dumb idiots. We need to get rid of that sort of stuff. I mean, we don't even have TV in our house. We have movies, and the TV's in my room, and I decide what is appropriate for the kids to watch. So, but I think a lot of the times we just use the TV as a babysitter for the kids.
You're describing the way my house was. I had my main TV here in the living room. We both sat down and we watched the same stuff together. Any multimedia, like say cell phone or laptop or iPads, any of those kind of things, was always being operated within my presence, and they weren't allowed to be taken back to the bedroom at the end of night to spend the time doing whatever they wanted. And it always had to be loud enough for me to be able to at least hear whatever they were doing while they were online.
Yep.
Especially when I would hear that four-letter word come out of something that my younger child was watching. And, I don't think that's appropriate. Next thing I know, I'd hear it being turned off, and something else that knew that I would approve of was being put on. And it was just one of those people that Minecraft, very big into it, but the person she was watching loved to throw those F-bombs out there every 5 seconds as they were going along. And
so, I mean, whether we do a voucher system or some other sort of system for the kids, I think that the money should follow the parent, whether it's a private school, a religious school, a charter school, wherever the parent decides that the money should go. If they decide that the school that their child is currently at, or their children are currently at, is not working out for them, and they choose to go somewhere else, that funding should go with them. And then that will give a little bit more incentive for the schools to do better and to maybe bring up their scores. Because right now, as I see it, if you're in school every single day until the 1st of October, or even the end of October, whatever their deadline is, that the schools get that money for the whole year. And then the kid could just not show up for the whole rest of the year, but the school still gets that money. But if the student was leaving the school and going somewhere else, and that money followed, you'd be darn well sure that the principals and the teachers would be looking into, why are these parents taking their kids out of our school, and why are they flocking to this other school? I think it would be good to create a little bit of competition.
The Supreme Court recently came out with their ruling down in D.C. that the money is supposed to follow the child, whether it be going to a Christian school, a public school, or a charter school, that the money is supposed to follow them. Alaska's Supreme Court, right after that ruling came out, decided to make their own decision on how that money is supposed to be spent, and they came in and they curtailed it. And they said only a portion of that money is to follow the student, but the majority of it is to stay within the public school system, whether that child is going to a Christian school or a charter school or a home school instead. Do you think there's anything that can be done in Juneau to change that? I mean, when did our courts
become the most powerful entity in the state, which it shouldn't be? The legislature, the representation of the people, should be the most powerful. They are supposed to just enforce the law and interpret the laws that the legislature makes. So it's hard when the people that are being elected or selected down there are ignoring the Constitution. They're ignoring the laws that are made. We need to have some sort of consequences for not following the law. I mean, if I don't follow the law, I go to jail, you know? Well, nowadays they're letting them all out, except for, conservatives. They'll just keep them in jail, like the January 6th people, for no reason. But yeah, we need to have some sort of consequences, because it's absolutely ridiculous. And I have experienced that portion of it, because I went to we do homeschool with my kids, but we're at MatSu Central, so it's a public homeschool system. So I had put in for reimbursement for a math curriculum, the curriculum itself, but the portion of it that I had gotten to help my daughter was like a CD on how to explain the lessons and all the lesson plans and all that. Well, they came back and said, oh, well, you can't be reimbursed for that because it's religious. And then when we were at the Christian school, they went through every single class, and they were like, oh, this percentage of the class is religious, so we're not paying for it, which is absolutely ridiculous. If I'm paying property taxes, and they say that out here in the valley, 80% of our property taxes are going towards school, I want my money to go to whatever school that I want my kids to go to, and it should be any parent. So that way we can have some competition here. And we need to have some sort of consequences, and, for things not following the law.
All right, I always love to throw a curveball out there, and I always like to call those that sit in Juneau lawbreakers. I do it all the time. Call them lawbreakers instead of lawmakers. This is a catch-22 question. Do you consider yourself a lawmaker or a lawbreaker? And I'll give two different laws that are out there on the books. In fact, there's three of them that are out there on the books. The one that everybody seems to forget about. As a ballot measure, we Alaskans 3 times have passed that our capital and legislative body is to be moved to the road system. They got around doing that by defunding it, so that they couldn't pay for it, even though we voted for that to happen. Another law that is on the books is senior longevity bonus. It's over 20 years old. The law is still on the books. My grandma was a beneficiary of that way back when. And when they defunded the longevity bonus, that was the handwriting on the wall for my grandma. She had to pack up and leave Alaska because she couldn't afford to live here anymore. The law is still there. Third law on the books that we currently have is the statutory PFD law, which is still there, still the law of the land, but they ignored that for the illegal one that they passed of SB 26, which is the POMV law. So are you a lawmaker or a lawbreaker? And I say it's a catch-22 because the second half of the question that I'll give a little later will explain that. But these are the laws that are on the books. They got around all of it by defunding it, or just outright the last one ignoring it as if the original statutory PFD law doesn't exist. If there's any budget passed in Juneau, and you are there, would you vote yes or no for the budget that doesn't have these things either removed from the laws, like the longevity bonus? If you're not going to pay it, why do we have a law for it? And
so, like you said, it's a catch-22, because yes, you are a lawmaker, but then also you've got to break some laws that are not constitutional. I mean, I think that some of these things that that they've passed are unconstitutional. And just because you've passed them as a law doesn't mean that they were good for the people. So, for example, like the SB 172 that's being dubbed the mental health bill, that is taking away our rights as people to voluntarily commit ourselves if we're having a problem. But no, they've decided to write that under Article 9, which is involuntary confinement. So I think going through some of these, instead of making all these laws and that being the merit of your stint as a legislator, as a representative, or even a senator, we should be going through these laws that we currently have on the books, and we should be sizing them up with the Alaska Constitution. We need to size them up also with the United States Constitution. If they are unconstitutional, they need to be nulled and void, because anything that does not go against the Constitution is not for Americans. So I guess you're going to have to break some of the laws in order to start obeying the law, like with the PFD and the moving the capital and everything. A lot of people think that down there it's just, well, this is the way it's going to be. It's never going to change. And, what's the point of fighting anymore? But we need to keep fighting. The people need to keep fighting. We need to start electing people that will do the things that they say they're going to do. And if something doesn't work, then we got to find a different way. You just got to fight through. I mean, people are sneaky. I mean, I have children. They can be sneaky when they want to. And so you've got to figure out a different way to look at the situation. So, and again, there needs to be consequences for not following the Constitution and the things that were set up. So I think that they set up these new things to try to be like, oh, well, we've got this law now. No.
Okay, I'm going to, normally I wait until the very end to bring out the second part of the question, but I've got several other things I want to touch on today. But as a lawmaker, I'm going to throw something out there. We, Alaska, break the law. Every Alaskan breaks the federal law every single day, especially if they smoke marijuana. We passed the law here in our state, that state law saying that marijuana is legal to purchase, legal to sell, and legal to be taxed and paid the coffers to the state's revenue on a city level. We got nations or states down in the lower 48 that are following the same model that Alaska is here when it comes to marijuana, on top of illegal immigration, declaring themselves sanctuary states, completely ignoring federal law to make those kind of things happen. Since we're already breaking the law when it comes to the federal government, when it does not align with the values of our state, and in our case, marijuana, why are we not doing the same thing when it comes to developing up our resources here in the state of Alaska? Why are we not, figuratively speaking, flipping the bird to the federal government and saying, we don't care what you think or what you say anymore, we're going to develop our resources, oil, mining, timber, fishing, you name it, anything that has to do with our resources, whether it's renewable or not. It's what pays our bills. It's what funds our government. Yet Joe Biden shut us down.
See, I had thought that same thing. I said, why is he shutting us down? Why does he have the ability to shut us down? Our state, we should be allowed to go up there because it's our land. We should be allowed to go up there and develop whatever it is that we need to develop. And people complain about, oh, what about, the trees? What about the spotted owl? Those sorts of things. If you've ever been up there, there's literally nothing up there. It's brown in the summer, which is like 30 degrees, and it's white in the winter, and there's massive winds. I mean, I worked in Barrow for 18 months. I'd go up once a month and do dentistry up there. And they considered February the month of extreme cold, and boy was it cold. There's literally nothing up there. And with Americans, we are so good at putting things back the way they used to be, and even better. I mean, my dad used to own a logging business when we lived in the state of Washington. And he said we had to put things back. We planted more trees, and we had to make things look better than what we did before we even went in there. And I thought, with Joe Biden, what is he going to do if we just continue to go up there and we open up Anwar and we go and drill, and as long as we put things back better, or if not the same way as we did before, who's he going to send up here to stop us? I mean, him and what army? Because our army is loyal to us and the Constitution. Our military is, not him.
I hear the argument from other candidates when I ask them this question. Well, wouldn't they just kick us out and say, we don't want you anymore, Alaska, if you're not going to follow the federal laws? And we're going to yank, and I'm going, what are they going to do? Yank the military when we're the strategic point for defense for the United States, whether they like it or not? They need us. Mm-hmm. We don't need them.
Yes. What are they going to do to us? I mean, nothing.
We're already paying double the cost of what it does cost anywhere else in the United States. It was like my first time ever going down there and seeing the cost of a gallon of milk compared to what we pay here locally for a cost of a gallon of milk.
Mm-hmm. When I was up there in 2011, 2012 is about when I was up there, a gallon of milk was $13 and a gallon of water was $8. But a 2-liter thing of pop was like 99 cents. So, I mean, there are great people out in the villages. So what is Joe Biden going to do if we just take our state back?
In all honesty, also nothing they can do.
What they're trying to do, though, is they're trying to shut us down because they know that we could supply the rest of the United States, the whole United States, with so many oil, natural gas, minerals, and everything like that. But they don't want that because they're trying to go to a one world government. They were at first trying to provoke a civil war to get us fighting against each other, and I think that is not working. I think people are starting to wake up and unite more. So now they're poking at Russia. And there was even talk about Russia taking us back. Well, we're not going back. Us Alaskans are not going to stand for that. We are Americans through and through. And
if he thinks he's having a problem with Ukraine right now, try stepping into Alaska and face our firepower compared to what they've got sitting there.
Well, and Alaska is the only one of the states, the fewest states that actually even Democrats all own guns.
Yes.
You don't want to walk into anybody's house up here. Not one of their 87,000 IRS agents, armed IRS agents.
You probably have had this question before. What do you think the right size budget is for Alaska? Currently this year it topped out at about $6-7 billion is what they spent on a state level. On top of all the federal contributions, that total jumps to about 19 billion, almost $20 billion that they spent this year down there in Juneau. They gave us Alaskans a measly $1.6 billion of that for our permanent fund dividend, and took the other $1.4 billion and stuck it into their own pockets and distributed it out to K through 12 and healthcare and the 80,000 government employees that we have within our state.
Yes, so just because you have money doesn't mean that you should spend it. I like Dave Ramsey's philosophy. You need to sit down with your budget, and our state, our government is basically a business. We need to have some retained earnings, a rainy day fund for when things are bad. The stock market's going down. I don't know if you saw the English pound is falling massively, and they're trying to buy bonds to prop it up. what happens in Europe eventually starts to come this way. So we need to have some funds in our coffers for when things aren't as good. And instead of spending it every dime, it's like you spend like you're in Congress. I mean,
Like you can print it yourself.
yes, well, and
Yeah.
that's what we've been doing, and that's why we have all this inflation. Just because you have it doesn't mean that you should spend it. We need to decide what the people want and what they want money spent on, not what the government wants. The people want their PFDs. They want to have school choice. They want to be able to buy groceries without spending a whole paycheck. They want to be able to afford their house payment without spending another paycheck and then having nothing left over. I mean, people are going to work and then they're coming home and they don't have time to spend with their kids because they have to go to another job to be able to afford. And both the parents are having to work these days because of the cost of things. You know, it's the people's money. The people should decide. And we need to elect people who are standing up for what the people want. And so many these days are not doing what the people want. I like what Carrie Lake said. She said that if you are getting rich in government, you're probably corrupt.
We see that very evident, a good example, and I always like to throw it out there. The greed and the entitlement is astounding. Quote from Natasha von Imhoff on the floor during the budget debate of giving Alaskans their rightful share of the statutory PFD versus her family, the Rasmussen Foundation, getting that money instead. Speaking of the Rasmussen Foundation, are you aware that they reported this past year over $900 million in profits? This came out right at the beginning of January, somewhere right in that area. They came out with their annual report of how their foundation is doing. And then you got to look at the billions that have been funneled through our Alaska Ledge, through federal pass-through, either for COVID or actual state funding. On a local level, Anchorage, I know, has given them close to around $500 million to help combat the homelessness and everything else. And all these, and COVID pass-through that went to them. And all of this combined, you can understand how they got so rich. And when you say corruption, and it's very evident, she's a prime example of that. Do you think, why is mainstream media ignoring it? I mean, we just had a budget audit yesterday by the committee for Angela Rodell for the PFD Corporation and her firing. And here's Natasha chairing that committee when there was already a Freedom of Information Act was filed against her for her emails through Must Read Alaska. And it disclosed private communications between Rodell and Imhoff, communicating both on a foundation level and a state level on the pass-through and talking points for the permanent fund dividend and the corporation stance when they're in front of them talking committees. None of that came out in their investigation yesterday.
Well, the mainstream media is not reporting it because they're told not to report it. They are all getting the same information and they are told this is what you're going to say, and if you don't do what we say, you're going to be without a job, you're not going to have funding. So that's basically the long and short of it. I mean, if you look at media all across the US, they all say the same thing. The mockingbird media. And they don't want to have any conservative values out there because the people might revolt. And they would if they knew what was going on. I have a friend who had to take her son to a doctor's office, and Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire was playing in the lobby, and she was just astounded at what was being said about this. She's like, this is not being reported on the mainstream media. And it's like, well, no kidding. You know, these people are allowed to get away because the people don't know. A lot of people don't even have the time to delve into it. super deep. I mean, it's just like with Project Veritas's video, one of Murkowski's people saying that, you know, the average person doesn't have time to look into Murkowski's finances, but if they ever did, then we would be hosed. But the average person is just going about their daily life and they're not involved in politics. They're just going to work and trying to survive. So they're not involved in politics like we are. And so they'll never know. But if they ever did delve into it, we'd be hosed.
One day I wish that they actually would, or as I like to tell people, support me. Help me out. Give donations. Go to my website. Click that support button. I seriously want to be that next generation of mainstream media for Alaska that I'll be sitting down in Juneau when legislative sessions are going on. I will be sitting in the hallways waiting for them to come out of their committee meetings, demanding answers to what was just discussed inside of that room. I would love to be able to have an army of people out there showing up at the assembly meetings, showing up at the school board meetings, all around the state. Not just my general vicinity that I'm in right now, because that's what I can afford to do out of my own pocket. But if I had the support out there, I would love to see just a tenth of what mainstream media gets. I would give them a run for their money and show them what real reporting is all about.
And what I've been doing too when I go door to door is I've been trying to build a list of constituents, potential constituents who want to read bills, who want to know what's really going on down there, because what comes out of there is not necessarily the truth. I mean, there's so many games being played. It's like high school, you know, and it's like a big sorority. You're either in the in crowd or you're not. And I've never been into that sort of game playing. I'm not a game player. But, you know, also people who will give input, give ideas, because I don't claim to know it all. I mean, I live my life, and there's no way in the world that I can know everything that there is to know out there, and there's no way that I have all the ideas. That's why we have constituents. We have people in the community to give me those ideas and say, hey, what about this? You know, did you think about it from this angle? And you know, people who want to know what's going on and be a part of the government. And it's part of me returning the representation back to the people, and not just those 40 people that are down there, the 20 in the Senate and the 40 in the legislature. It needs to be the people in the community, because I've noticed just with going to, I watched the several of the school board meetings online, and then I've been to a couple of the borough meetings and everything, and it seems to me that the people want certain things, but they don't give it to them. They give them into part and parcel, you know, like with the transgender people in the bathroom. They said, oh, well, we're going to suspend it for now.
Right.
The people don't want that. They want it gone. Also with the Dominion machines. Oh, well, we're going to do a hand count, but we're going to do the machines first, and then we'll hand count and see if the machines are correct, instead of getting rid of the machines. And the thing is, with the borough elections, with it being a fairly small area in comparison to the United States, they're not going to touch those elections. They're not going to mess with those elections with those machines. And then they're going to be like, well, see, the machines are right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they only give people a little bit. So they said, okay, we're going to do the hand count and the machines. But the people don't want that. They want the machines gone. And that's the thing with our government, is they only give a little bit of what the people want, just to get them off their backs for a little bit. And I think that moving our representation up here, even moving the Senate, we don't have to move the Capitol. It can still stay Juneau, but moving our representatives up here, so that way the people can talk to them face to face, because that's what they don't want. They don't want people to gather in rooms and hold them accountable. So, I mean, I met somebody that went down there and just turned in some petitions and got screamed at to get out. So they were walking almost out the building, and then they called the Capitol Police and said he had a gun and was threatening them. He didn't have a gun. But he said it's ridiculous that you can't even go and talk to your representatives. I mean, he didn't even talk to them. He just handed them some petitions without being threatened. No, we need to return the power back to the people.
I see that very evident, like with the gun that you're describing there. Here's Joe Biden calling all MAGA extremist terrorists, and they need to be dealt with forthwith. And then here comes this left-wing nut job and goes and kills a what he considered a MAGA terrorist and extremist that had to be taken care of because Joe Biden said that we're a threat to the nation. And mainstream media buries it. The guy has already been released from jail. And
he had a $50,000 bail, and Kyle Rittenhouse had a $2 million bail for defending himself. It was self-defense. And he went out there trying to help people with a first aid kit. You know, if somebody had problems, medical problems, he was going out there to help. He was just helping businesses, and then he got fired upon, and so he defended himself. And then they let him rot in jail for who knows how long with a $2 million bail. But this guy, he got out, 2 days later on a $50,000 bail. You know he's going to do it again. That's what these people are trying to do. They're trying to they're taking away our law enforcement, demonizing our law enforcement, because that's how socialism comes in. That's how Marxism comes in. And they have to take America down because we're the last bastion of hope. And we can't let them do it.
I saw it earlier today that the person during the 2020 riots that was going on during the election cycle and the Summer of Love, they've now, the mostly peaceful protests, but just a little bit fiery in the background. There's a defendant out there that is currently, as they say, she is fighting for her life, and in all reality, she's sitting at home right now with an ankle monitor. She is guilty of firebombing the police station and police vehicles, and also distributing the materials for firebombing them. They released her basically on her own reconnaissance to her house, and they are currently arguing that she should get time served while on the ankle monitor as she's sitting supposedly at her house. But this ankle monitor, she's able to freely travel around anywhere she wants to go as long as she's in the house by a certain time. She was supposed to have a court date that was supposed to be happening right now. They postponed it until the 9th of November. What's the odds that this person who firebombed police vehicles, police stations, has been released, sitting at home, living the life of luxury, gets no time at all and time served when this is all through? But you walked in through the door at the Capitol, and the Capitol Police were holding the door open for you and say, "Come on in," are still locked up, haven't even had a sentencing,
not even been charged.
Can't get bailed.
Yeah, and they're being treated like animals in the January 6th. They haven't even been charged for that. The Summer of Love, the riots and stuff that went on, that's the real insurrection that happened. And there's starting to become more and more FBI whistleblowers coming out and saying, hey, wait, no, that's not what happened on January 6th. We saw these people, and even some of the people that we knew, we saw Antifa going in, and they were starting to rile things up. No, I mean, these people that are in jail for January 6th need to be released immediately. They don't even need to be pardoned because they didn't do anything that needs to be pardoned. And they need to be given restitution and their lives back. Because this is, I mean, we need to clean up the real insurrection. I mean, that's what's going on even just with, just in our own state here. I mean, so this is an interesting thing. So I've been told that there have been former inmates working for local judges, local lawyers, and everything. So they go into prison and they get their degree in paralegal and all this stuff, and they pass the test, and they're able to go out and work for judges and lawyers and everything like that. Well, when you leave prison, you're only allowed like 1 or 2 contacts on the inside. Well, these inmates, former inmates, are using their lawyer to contact multiple people inside the prison system to contact people that they're not allowed to contact, but they're using it under the client lawyer privilege sort of thing. And so, and it's being allowed to go on. And the reason why these people are hiring these people is because they know the system inside and out. They know how to game both sides. And also we have we need to also remove judges that are not following this constitution. We also have businesses, local businesses, that are not allowing people to fight crime. They're not allowing the employees to even report it anymore. Otherwise, they'll lose their jobs. We're training criminals that there are no consequences for their actions. Businesses are effectively making our communities unsafe. I mean, there were people that I know that were loss prevention officers for Walmart, and they got fired for doing their job. I mean, DAs aren't prosecuting crime anymore. They're just letting people out of jail, and it's under the guise of COVID. Well, but yet they're redoing the floors in the prison for no prisoners. Why are we redoing floors in the prison if there's no prisoners? Right. They give them a court date, and they're like, come back. Do you think these people are really going to come back? No. So I think like Mayor Rudy Giuliani, what he did in New York City to clean that up, I mean, he had people arrested for every little thing. I mean, if you were smoking on the street, if you had an open bottle, if you littered, I mean, any little thing. And it started cleaning that city up. He called it broken windows, and I thought it was a huge success. And he also started holding the heads of the police departments accountable. They couldn't just come in anymore and say, hey, what are your numbers? They had to, these are what your numbers are, but how did you get this? And why aren't you down lower? Why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? We need to have some more accountability in our state as far as that, because they're just tearing apart our state by letting all this lawlessness and this homelessness stuff happen. I mean, if a business is called the police and they've had somebody trespassed, they can't do anything. They just go in there and they look, oh yeah, they're in here. Well, we can't do anything. We can't throw them in jail. I mean, I have a brother-in-law who's a police officer, and I went on a ride along with him many years ago, and he said, you may have 3 different charges, and you got to find one charge that'll put them in jail, because like a DUI, for being in jail for a DUI was like 3 days. Whereas if you were driving on a suspended license, it was 90 days. So, I mean, we need to switch some of our priorities. I mean, driving on a suspended license is not near as deadly as driving while drunk or intoxicated on some sort of thing. We need to have some accountability for a lot of this crime and everything that's going on, that's being allowed.
Big issue coming up November 8th is the Constitutional Convention. UAA is having a debate with all of the left-wing mainstream media and university as the ones hosting and being the different sides of this debate. Where do you stand on the Constitutional Convention? Yes? No? If yes, why? If no, why?
So I think it's a yes and no answer. So yes, but we need to clean up our voting systems, because how it's been explained is that people in the community from each district will run like you're running for office for being a representative for the Constitutional Convention. But if we still have these machines in there, how are we to know that these people that get sent down there as our representatives for the Constitutional Convention are actually really the people that we elected for down there? Because if we get these liberals in there, we're going to get so many changes to our Constitution that we don't want. And I think We do need to change the way the judges are elected. We need to add sheriffs. We need to add the PFD. Maybe we need to even add, like the Division of Elections. We need to add a Secretary of State and some of these big name agencies. Maybe the tops of those, the top echelon, maybe they should be elected officials. And maybe only have like a 2-year stint so we can get rid of them quick, because that's where I think a lot of this stuff is so entrenched in there, is that we're not able to get rid of these people. So you can change the government, you could change the presidency, you could change the Congress, you could change our governor or, the representatives, but these people that are in the heads of these agencies, they're the ones with the real power because you never can get rid of them. So maybe adding those sorts of things, but we've got to clean up our elections first. And so if we can't clean up our elections, then I'm afraid to have a constitutional convention, because they're going to probably make it even worse. They'll add things in there like what California's got, mandatory vaccines and like truck drivers. You can't be an independent contractor anymore. You have to work for a company, and so therefore you're out of a job. I mean, that's 70,000 truck drivers.
Their newest one that just got struck down, we're going to close down all detention facilities of ICE and completely eliminate them. And the courts came back, the Ninth Circuit, and the entire 11 body panel, not just the 3 that had ruled originally, came back and says, no, you can't shut them down.
Yeah.
And
so, and it makes it easier for the other side to put their political opponents in detention camps and everything. I mean, with this HB 172, if somebody doesn't like what I say, they can say that, oh, she threatened to kill herself, or she's mentally unstable. Maybe you need to go check on her. And heaven forbid, if you have children, like I do, they could take your children. And even in the school system right now, they can take your children and commit them and not let you know that they've committed them. I mean, and I'm afraid that if we don't clean up our elections and get voter integrity and have people have confidence in our elections, we're going to get that sort of stuff entrenched in our Constitution if we have a constitutional convention without cleaning up some of this stuff.
Well, I'm going to throw the devil's advocate in the other direction towards that. If we don't have a constitutional convention this year, or vote yes to have it, not it's going to take at least 2-3 years to work all the way through. It's going to be 10 more years before we get there. Our Constitution, as is our Alaska Constitution, is unrecognizable compared to what it was. I mean, for abortion, they used the right to privacy as the reason why you can have abortion all the way up until the day of birth here in Alaska. Absolutely no reason needed whatsoever. Judges is another good example there. I personally, for a constitutional convention, would love to see it that if there is a law on the books that says one thing, you cannot pass another law that says another thing until you repeal the current law that is there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And this is the type of stuff that I would love, why I'm for a constitutional convention. And the reason why I would disagree with you about needing to clean up voter rolls and all of that is the end determination on whether or not this stuff gets put into our Constitution is up to Alaskans to vote for it. And if we, as a body of Alaskans, all 730,000 of us, and the 500,000 that are supposedly registered to vote, don't vote for this, it's never going to happen anyways, and or what they pass anyways in the body of for the con. It won't happen. But if we don't do something now, if you think Alaska is unrecognizable from where it was in the past, just imagine what 10 years is going to be like with all the issues we've talked about
I
here today.
agree. It does need to be done, but I would like to see the machines gone, because I want to have confidence that the people that we've elected to do this are the people that we elected, and then they're going to bring it back to the people to elect or to decide, okay, they made up this law, what do you guys think? Well, how are we going to know that we said no to this particular thing, like the ranked choice voting, because we know that didn't get in lawfully. So that's the kind of things that I'm looking at, with these people taking, now they take a month now to count our votes. That's ridiculous. We don't even have that many people. If Florida, who's got a bazillion people, several million people in there, they can count their votes in one day, and we don't even have a million people in the state.
Yeah.
I think we have 320,000 technically registered voters, people that are old enough to vote.
We got roughly 500,000 people that are registered voters in Alaska. It's actually higher than that because we got a lot of the dead, a lot of the people that have moved out of state that are no longer should even be on our voter rolls. We're at 116%, 120% of what should be registered to vote right now on the rolls. I agree with you. I mean, anybody that does the sniff test when it comes to ranked choice voting, it's very hard to see it happening. But I look at who is in charge of the vote no instead of the vote yes.
Yes,
and
I
it's the
see that
same
too.
dark money that got us ranked choice voting is the same dark money like 1630 Project and Cog Hill and Giesel, and these are the same people that wanted ranked choice are now telling us no to the con.
And I see that too. So it makes you wonder what's going on.
It's because they don't want it to happen because they know if the right people get put in charge, and I don't mean that as in the people on the right or the people on the left, but people that actually care about Alaskans' futures, all of us futures. The control, the manipulation that government has been getting away with, the subverting of our laws with the lawyers is going to disappear.
Yes.
And they don't want that. They want that power of the purse strings. We are above the law because we are the lawmakers.
And we are your lords, and you must obey.
Yes.
You are the servants, the underlings.
I mean, a good example of that is what just happened in Anchorage with the assembly there. You are no longer allowed to give public testimony at the beginning of their assembly like they used to have. They've removed it.
And they're trying to get rid of the mayor, but they haven't figured that out. It's just a matter of time before they figure out how to get the mayor out of there, the duly elected mayor, and take over.
Yeah, they gave themselves their own impeachment power to eliminate the mayor without the constituents' voices and votes being involved anymore.
Yep. So yes, I agree that those things need to be cleaned up and put in our Constitution. So yes and no.
So as a representative, and I'm going to throw this out there, if you made it into the House and you're down there in Juneau and Senator Mike Shower makes it back into the Senate and he goes back down to Juneau, he has his bill SB 39, which is voter integrity. And he did a very good job of getting it as far as he did this past season. Excuse me. And it needs more support in the House because I know what I've seen the House's version of Senator Shower's bill is not Senator Shower's bill. This is what the left stream of government wants to have. We can care less what all of Alaskans want. This is what we as government want because it makes sure that we elect the people we want, not the people you want.
Yes, and I agree. I mean, I think that Mike Shower's bill is good. We do need to get rid of the machines. There's no pussyfooting around this.
That's the only thing that, out of everything you've described to us, it's the only thing that's not in the bill is getting rid of the machines.
And the people want the machines gone. And I just don't understand these people that we've elected down there, why they won't listen to the people. Well, we know why they won't listen to the people, because they want to be assured that they can stay down there for however long it is that they want to stay down there. And not
people
be
like
accountable.
me don't pay them to go down to Juneau. I'm not paying for their candidacy. This right here is my contribution towards our government. But other than that, I'm not here to pay you to be down there. You're a civil
Yeah.
servant. You're supposed to
Yeah.
be doing this to help betterment because you love our state or you love our country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's turned into, how big of a paycheck can I make it into? How
Mm-hmm.
big are the people I'm representing? How much money can I funnel
Mm-hmm.
into their pockets?
Mm-hmm.
And a good race to Shower's race is a good example of that. You got Doug Macy and you got Senator Shower. Macy is union driven, union supported, union funded. Barely done any campaigning out there. He never shows up to the functions that I'm at on a regular basis. I mean, if you're a true conservative, you would be showing up to pretty much anywhere I go. There's a reason for it. And but he's winning.
Mm-hmm.
He was. If we take the $3.5 million over glorified poll that we had in August, he in that aspect he is winning, and I don't see him making it over the finish line just because Shower goes, I've got all this new district. He was not my senator this last year. I had David Wilson.
Okay. Well, that's who I
because
have
the
now.
districts changed. Shower is now going to be my senator if elected. So Big Lake was not a part of his district last year or the 2 years ago when he ran. Neither was Connect Goose Bay Road. And now all of these people that never really got to meet him because he never had to campaign in those areas, now they're getting to find out who he is. And I know he's out there door knocking every day in those areas. Every weekend I see a post. I'm out here. Picture of him in the back of his truck. If you see my truck and me, stop on by. Let's talk. Get to know me and go from there.
Well, and I've had people, you know, because I'm out in the rain, they're like, man, you must be serious. You're out in this rain and I look like a drowned rat. I'm like, well, yeah. But, you know, if we get enough true conservatives in our government, then we won't have to vote for things that we don't agree with. We won't write legislation that we fundamentally disagree with, and it goes against our morals and also against our Constitution. If we have enough true conservatives, we can band together and make changes that benefit the people of our communities we're representing. So it's getting enough true conservatives. And I think a lot of the state is conservative, contrary to popular belief. I think a lot of areas in Anchorage probably are conservative. I think COVID turned a lot of people more conservative because of all the battles that they were fighting to keep their businesses open. And I think a lot of people ended up having to leave because they couldn't afford to stay here anymore because they had no income because their businesses were shut down.
Yeah, if I was to believe Bill Walker or Les Guerra, one of the two, we had the biggest decimation of Alaska's population underneath Governor Dunleavy's rule, and he is the cause of all of these people leaving. And I'm going, wait a minute. The oil companies were closing their doors and people were leaving state because those high-paying jobs weren't here no more. They're skilled workers. They're going to go where the money is, not where it's a nice place to live.
Well, look at Ethan Berkowitz. When he was in Anchorage, he was shutting down all of the restaurants to indoor dining. But yet, he would shut it down for a certain amount of time, and then he closed off one of the streets. I don't remember which street it was. Maybe it was G Street or something like that. He closed off and then put a decree that, oh, you can't have indoor dining for another month. And then he had all of that outdoor dining to benefit his businesses. It's like, no, these people are playing politics with our lives, and they're trying to get rid of us because they don't want us conservatives, because we're, you know, the Make America Great Again crowd is fundamentally, you know.
That's the part that's always confused me when it comes especially to the Democrat Party, that what do they have against making America great? I mean, seriously, I mean, you have to be as dumb as a pile of, I mean, I'm just, I would love to throw some four-letter words out there right now. But
I think it starts with the kids, the indoctrinations in the schools. That's where it's starting. Because if you can get the kids and teach them what you want from the younger grades. I mean, they were doing it in colleges for a lot of years, because I can't tell you how many people that I know that their kids went off to college and they became flaming liberals when they got out. Well, now they're bringing that down into the younger grades. I mean, they're starting in preschool now with the indoctrination, and they're making pedophilia okay and legal. I mean, there was a teenager down in Texas in one of the schools, and he was talking about their call them maps or something like that, and the teacher was just like, no, you just stop being a pain. And he was recording all of this, and she was like, you quit making fun of somebody. It's okay if somebody wants to have a sex with a 5-year-old. And this teenager caught this on recording. And it's disgusting. And then there was a group of 12-year-olds. I don't know if you saw that. So they had been telling over and over and over that this one teacher was harassing the girls. And so this group of 12-year-olds got sick and tired of it, and they made a group, and they started documenting every little thing. And even down to the teacher saying, well, you'll never get rid of me because they'll never believe you. Well, when it finally came down to it, they had tons and tons of documentation. These 12-year-olds standing up for their rights of the girls in their class, even the boys, and he finally got fired. Who knows if he went to jail at this point.
Or the Canadian shop teacher that's coming out with those, oh my God, they're out to here and they're pointed as if it's cold outside, and come to find out that the more the research that's coming out about that, that he might be trolling the school district at this particular moment in time, because a year ago he was on the opposite side of the spectrum and they went against him. And he says, fine, if this is the way you feel about it, then let's just show you how extreme we can get to follow the viewpoints that you think is acceptable. Let's see if you'll do something about it now. And instead they give him a pat on the back and say, jolly, oh, you're doing a good job. I know you've got to run here real shortly, so let me give you the point of view of just you on the screen here. And always got to have fun. Things are a little bit awkward here. I keep hitting the wrong buttons because I'm used to my cameras being set up a little bit differently. I've got the Droid Cam back up and running, which is that one right there. Take your time. Explain why you're running. Tell people how to get a hold of you, so that you know what's your phone number, what's your email. If you don't mind phone calls, I mean, I found it, but I had to go to the actual candidate page on the government website because you don't have your phone number listed on your website.
No, and it's because I work, so it's hard for me to call people back on a reasonable time because, I'm seeing patients all day long. And then, I've got 5 children. So it's hard to call somebody back when you've got screaming children in the background. So it's easier for me to do it either over email or on Facebook or something like that, because then you don't hear the screaming children or the dental drills going. And
Got it. Gotcha. And let me go ahead and flip the screen here. You are front and center now, all yours.
So, I really like a quote from Ann Ballard. God doesn't call the qualified, but instead he qualifies those he calls. I do feel called to do this, and I've had a good life without this. But I want a future for our children and our grandchildren. I want them to have a bright future. I'm an America First and Alaska First candidate. I'm not a politician, just an Alaskan who wants things to change for the better. I want Alaska to be one of the greatest states. If we don't elect conservatives with backbones and integrity, I'm not sure what is going to happen. We need to make sure our candidates represent us the way they say they will, and we've had the majority in Juneau many times. And many times promises that were made were broken. We need to return the power back to the people of our districts, not give it to the special interest groups or rhino Republicans. In order to get the government we so desire, we must vote for the people who will fight for the things that we want. Believe me, you're not alone. And I'm not alone in wanting things to move in a more conservative direction in our communities and our state. If we will come together and vote for the people who will stand for what we want, we will get the kind of state and government that will follow the people's direction and not infringe on their rights as citizens. To that end, I'm trying to build a coalition of people who are interested in knowing what is happening in Juneau, people who are really willing to read bills and sign and give input, and people who I can bounce ideas off of, because I don't know it all. If you're interested in signing up to take the power back for the people, You can follow me on Facebook at Rachel Allen for State House. You can email me at rachelallendistrict28@gmail.com, or you can go to my website at electrachelallen.com. And I can always use volunteers, so if you are interested in even helping me build signs, put signs out, watch my signs, help door knock with me, all those different things, that would be very helpful.
Well, thank you, Rachel. This has been wonderful. I do appreciate your time here today with me and answering my god-awful questions. It is always wonderful to be able to hear from candidates from around the state. And this is Rachel Allen, and she is running for House District 28 here in the MatSu Valley. And she has three, no better way than I can describe it, rhinos that are running in her district. I know that this is not something any politician will say out loud, but you guys all know me. I'm Politadick. I don't care what you think. I'm going to tell it like it is. She really needs your support. Vote for her. Reach out to her. Find if you want any questions answered. I know she is more than happy to give you those answers or do the best to find out the answer for you if it's something so oddball that it hasn't been heard of or discussed at this point in time. So please, again, reach on out. And for all of you that are just joining in right now or have never sat and watched me before, please help us grow. There's several things that you can do. Number one is like this video. And that is a big step towards making sure that the mainstream media out there propagates this to more Alaskans so that we can get educated before we vote. Second thing you can do is like our pages. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Currently, this is also findable on our website. All of them are locatable by typing in Politadick. So if you please go to politadick.com and click that support button. And this is the most important thing I think that needs to happen right now is I really do want to become the alternative mainstream media and do the job that mainstream media refuses to do out there on a daily basis. And that's get out there and live stream everything. Whether that's sitting in Juneau when they're in legislative session, sitting in the hallways waiting for them to come out, demanding interviews from everybody that walks by. I want our legislators to know the eye is watching them, that we Alaskans are watching every step that they make. I want to be sitting in community council meetings, whether it be in the MatSu or in Anchorage or in Kenai or in Fairbanks. I want to have somebody there live streaming these meetings so that we are a part of it. School board meetings at the MatSu in Anchorage. God, there is so many times I wish I could be sitting in Anchorage at school board meetings while they are sitting there addressing the public to an empty room. So often it's an empty room. I go to the ones out here in the MatSu Valley, I mean, unless there's not really much of an issue going on, they have at least a quarter to a half of the room filled up. There's an issue, like we've had here past last month. Boy, let me tell you, that room is packed from end to end, flow overflow. Police are there because they're so worried that the bad's going to happen, yet nothing ever does. And but Anchorage, on the other hand, they want you silenced. Anchorage Assembly, they will not live stream their open meetings while they're happening. So if you were to go to like Tuesday night's meeting in Anchorage for their assembly meeting, you have to wait a day or two for them to upload it to YouTube so that you can watch it after the fact, not during and live. You have to participate by telephone only if you want to listen in because you can't personally be sitting there. We need to make this become to an end and have our government, whether it's local, city, councils, you name it, school boards, or legislators sitting down in Juneau, or the governor himself, having that camera in front of them, demanding answers and listening to them uncut and unfiltered. And you guys can make that happen by going to politadick.com, click that support button. Every penny goes right back into what I'm doing here right now. In fact, my next step is I should be on Rumble here real soon. I am not that far away from being able to get that to happen. thanks to you guys out there that have stepped up. A donation has come in here recently that is going to make it possible to get on Rumble, and I am looking very forward to being able to live stream this to you guys on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Rumble will be the one place I will be able to stream stuff that these other three never would allow me to do. And like the medical symposium that they just recently had out here in the valley, I really wanted to live stream that to all of you, but that would have got me banned off of all of these channels in a blink of an eye if I did. So please like and share this video, like and share me on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook so you never miss a broadcast. You guys all have yourself a great afternoon. I am glad that you are all able to be here today. Please, again, like and share. Greatly appreciate that.